As moms, we all say, I don't have time. I don't have time. Well, yeah, no one has like 1 or 2 hours, like a chunk to do this. You only need 5 or 10 minutes to decrease that cup from overflowing. You can't wait any longer. You deserve to feel better, and so do your kids. It also starts with like holistic approach, right? Is addressing our mental health, emotional health, physical health, and spiritual health. You have to address your thoughts. If what you say all the time is it's too much. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have time. Well, guess what? That's your reality. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not woo woo. It's true. Your thoughts are so powerful. And if you tell yourself, I don't have time, well, guess what? Guess what? You don't. And we
right.
make time. If something is a priority, you will make the time. So I tell women, stop saying I don't have time. Tell yourself, I'm not making the time. And
Exactly.
you have 5 minutes. Everyone does.
You're listening to the What the Gut podcast, where busy moms can come for a holistic approach to health and vitality. I'm Allison, your host, a holistic health and wellness coach. In this space, we'll dive into the intricacies of achieving holistic wellness while balancing the demands of daily life as a busy mom. What the Gut is your haven for navigating the challenges that come with juggling numerous tasks while aiming for a healthier, more balanced life. Join me as we uncover practical solutions to common health hurdles, from managing fatigue to understanding all things gut health. Through insightful discussions, actionable insights, and tailored lifestyle strategies, my goal here is to empower you to embrace a vibrant, nourishing life while saying goodbye to being overwhelmed and exhausted. So if you're ready to embark on this transformative journey towards holistic well-being, hit that subscribe button. Get ready to discover the secrets to thriving in motherhood while nurturing your overall wellness. A quick reminder, everything discussed here is for educational and empowering purposes only and is not intended for personalized medical advice. Consult your personal healthcare provider for personalized medical advice. Welcome to What the Gut, where we create our own path to holistic health, one episode at a time. Hey, Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you here. I know we connected a while back through Instagram and we're really interested in what each other did. We wanted to hop on and do a podcast. So I'm excited we finally found the time to do that. For my listeners, Alex Vieira is an occupational therapist who helps moms go from chronically stressed and burnt out to present and regulated. So I'm like, oh, I totally need you in my life. This is
Every
great.
mom said that. They're like, "What? What's your number?"
Yes. So you educate women on the nervous system and sensory system with a holistic approach. And you believe it only takes a few minutes a day to start meeting your needs and regulating your nervous system so that you can show up and thrive as a parent. I absolutely love that. I wholeheartedly believe all that. I'm not necessarily a guru at those things, though, right? But I know that we have a lot of things in common as far as a holistic approach. We're both Christian women and mamas of three. You have one on the way. It's nice to connect with somebody else in this space, as always, but especially somebody who really has a heart for other mamas. So, welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to have you here, Alex.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, we know that from experience, motherhood and taking care of ourselves is not easy. And once we find a way to do it, we're like, we have to help other moms do this because it's not fun to be struggling because then our children are struggling too.
Yeah, 100%. Can you share your journey into occupational therapy and then what really inspired you to focus on helping moms with nervous system regulation? How did one thing turn to the other?
Yeah, so I've been a pediatric OT for 6 years, but I started out in early intervention. So that's the 0 to 3 population. And I would go into homes, into daycares, and I have a heart for children. And I'm like, I've noticed that, God, these moms are struggling. I get to the house and they're like, can you just hold the baby? And I need to shower. And I was like, I feel like more what I was doing was helping the parents. And like,
Yeah.
doing 1 or 2 hours of therapy a week for children doesn't really scratch the surface if their parents are in survival mode and they're dysregulated, right? Because kids need connected, present caregivers to thrive. And when we're in survival mode, we are none of those things. And then I became a parent and I'm like, wow, I am not okay. What's wrong
Like,
with
I totally get it. I totally get what they all needed.
me? Right? Yeah, your nervous system changes. So, yeah, that just led me to start helping moms. And I just found myself wanting to be talking to parents more than working with kids.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that because you said you worked with mamas that had kiddos that were like 0 to 3 years. Like,
Yeah.
those are hard times, and it's like a quarter of that at least. I don't
Mhm.
even remember. Like, you remember, but you are in survival mode
Oh, yeah.
because you're on that clock of, especially like if you're breastfeeding too, it's
Hmm.
like, okay, checking the boxes. Did they eat at this time? Did they sleep enough? Did I shower? Did I feed myself? Did they poop? There's so many things like that.
Yeah.
So I can see where that would become exhausting in the sense of like, okay, I'm not doing exactly like what I signed up for, but you still have a heart and a calling for helping those mamas that are right there struggling,
Yeah.
obviously. So let me ask you, how do you explain the connection between the nervous system and sensory system in a way that like the moms that you work with understand?
Yeah. So I call this a bottom up approach. So picture like a pyramid, right? And a bottom up approach. So at the bottom of the pyramid is your nervous system and your sensory system. And the top is like, higher levels of thinking, thoughts. So the sensory system is at the base of the nervous system. Okay. And your autonomic nervous system is fight, flight, freeze mode regulation. That means we can't control that. We cannot control when we go into fight or flight. So, like having a tiger behind your back or having your kids scream at you and throw something at your face. Your nervous system's going to be like, I'm not safe, fight or flight mode. So, and that goes with your sensory system. So, right, if your environment is not safe, your nervous system goes into fight or flight. So, if you have a sensitive nervous system, and things are really loud and the touch is too much and there's clutter everywhere. Your senses are signaling to your nervous system, this is a lot and this is not safe. And what happens in motherhood is, hello, we go from like not having kids to just having them, and it just shifts everything.
It just happened.
Yeah, like, I know moms who are like, "Why can't I handle noises now? It never bothered me before." And and your body is just programmed to kind of be more in survival because 'cause you're keeping another human alive, so it's physiological, and it's environment, it's everything, and it's automatic, so we can't control it.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
makes me feel a lot better from like feeling super touched out at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Instead of me feeling like I'm like some bad mom, like, "Oh, I don't want my kid touching me," it makes sense that it's like, "Okay, this is my body and how it's adapting to things. This is normal to an extent." That doesn't mean it's wonderful, but I mean, it's part of biology. It's how things are
Yes.
working, right?
Mhm.
So, with that being said, what are some simple things, like habits or practices that you recommend moms to start doing to regulate their nervous system?
Yeah. So first you have to have that awareness. And this is what happens. This is why we become dysregulated. We're not connected with ourselves and we don't have this awareness. We don't even know we're in fight or flight mode or functional freeze mode. We might be here for days or years and we don't even know because, right, when you're in that state, your smart brain shuts off. So you're not able to even think clearly. So sensory input is cumulative. So as the day goes on, like you said, why is it always in the evening? It's just too much. So you have to understand your nervous system. I'm in this state and understand your sensory system. I've had a lot of noise and a lot of touch, and I haven't had a break. And it's 6 p.m. and I'm trying to think and plan and cook dinner, and people are screaming. It's a lot. That cup fills. So our job is to prevent the cup from overflowing. So taking rest breaks, it's the little habits that we do here and there. Maybe you step outside or you have quiet time, or you do some stretching and deep breathing to tell your body, hey, you're safe. It's all good. It's those little things because, right, as moms, we all say, I don't have time. I don't have time. Well, yeah, no one has like 1 or 2 hours, like a chunk to do this. You only need 5 or 10 minutes to decrease that cup from overflowing. right? And I'm sure you can attest to having good habits and how it's helped you feel better, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting how so much of that too, these little habits relate to gut health too, because so
Yes.
many of these things I'm like, this is what's going to calm your nervous system because it's going to decrease your stress hormones. It's going to be better on your gut. It's going to,
Mhm.
your bowels aren't going to go crazy because you're anxious. And it's the same type of thing with our nervous system. But I
Yeah.
just never have that in the back of my head when I'm doing these things.
Uh,
I'm always just like, okay, I need to do this because it's good for my gut. But it's good for my
yes.
brain too. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, it's interesting how it is all connected. So I know whenever I met you on Instagram and I found out what you did, I was like, okay, wow, good. This is just what I need right now because I'm pretty sure my nervous system is shocked. I was
Mhm.
just going through a time where everything was bothering me and somebody would walk in the room and I'd jump. And I've never been on edge like this before.
Uh,
Never wanted anybody touching me. Just very dysregulated from the
mhm.
definition of nervous system dysregulation. I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's me for the first time to this
Yeah.
extent." I had never been like that. And I know you had me like do a little questionnaire and I remember thinking, "Oh my goodness, how does she know this?" Wait, next question. She know this too. How does she know I'm experiencing this? And so I think just sharing that to let other moms know that if you're going through that where you're feeling super stressed at the end of the day, or maybe it's not even the end of the day, maybe it's lunchtime,
Maybe it's all
that
day. Maybe it's the second you wake up.
yes, like you are totally not alone. And
Yeah.
like I'm right there too. And I kind of recognized it. But then once I filled out that questionnaire that you gave me, I was like, oh man, I need to go breathe. So I know that chronic stress, just being in that fight or flight state, really affects your gut, your overall health, and your nervous system. It just makes it all messed up too. With your holistic approach, how do you incorporate nutrition and hydration into nervous system regulation?
Yeah. So, right, education and understanding the why. So, why is nutrition, hydration so important? So, I've broken it down because there's so many ways to regulate your nervous system. If you Google it, it's going to be like 50 ways, 75 ways. So, like, I broke it down to like six basic needs, right? Let's make it simple. And
Yes.
nutrition, hydration is one. And we understand, like, even if you just become 2 to 3% dehydrated, that can increase anxiety and, like, all kinds of things, and you are what you eat, so if you're just eating, like, a handful of goldfish and 3 cups of coffee, that's what you're gonna feel like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, nutrition, hydration was always probably last on my list.
Yeah.
I would, like, not eat for hours and, like, drink coffee, and I'm like, "Why am I so anxious all day?" It took me time to realize that. I had to build that awareness, but yeah, it's so important, and what I wanted to ask you is, do you see that with moms? Do you see moms that are stressed out having those gut issues? Because we know, like, that dysregulation, anxiety, like, that anxious gut, it's all connected.
Yes, 100%. That's one of the
Yeah.
biggest complaints. And I know even myself, even since my teenage years, I always had anxiety. I always just was nervous about something, whether it was my friends or my boyfriend or school. I was
Yeah.
always anxious and nervous about something.
Mhm.
And I would find myself binge eating, or I became addicted to coffee really bad in college. And that's still an addiction of mine. That's probably not the best, but we all have our weak spots, right?
We do.
But as, like, each pregnancy went on, after I had each kid, I went back to school, and, I mean, I had a lot of things I definitely could have been stressed about for sure, so it's not to say that I should have handled it differently, but I definitely did not put my nutrition first. I was drinking coffee all day and eating the leftover goldfish, like, that's
Mhm,
what I was doing,
mhm,
and I was like, "Why is my gut so messed up?" I mean, there were so many other contributing factors, but just some of the biggest things for me that have allowed me to sustain my gut in a good place
mhm,
is to be able to say, okay, like I'm going to actually sit down and eat a full breakfast meal. Nobody's going to talk to me or bother me, or, half the time that doesn't happen, but I
mhm.
still get to sit down. And I guess it's like setting those boundaries for yourself that,
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm going to have quiet time for a few minutes, even if it's not quiet. Lord, you do the best you can. But I sit down and eat now as much as I can, instead of eating on the go. Because
Yeah.
I have found too, even if you are eating healthier than just those leftover goldfish, if you're still like in such a hurry because kids have to go here and have to be there on time, like just slow down.
Hmm.
Because slowing down, that has been a game changer for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think that they all go hand in hand. I'm wondering, I want to ask you too. So, as far as nervous system regulation, I know you said you could Google it and there's like a million different things you could do.
Yeah.
By the time you sit there and read through all that, you're not going to have time to do any of them. So, I
Mhm.
love how you narrowed it down to just those six because I like
Yeah.
the simplicity.
Yeah.
But what are some misconceptions that you hear? So people think nervous system regulation, like, oh, I've got to do this at a certain time of the day. I've got to be in a certain mindset. Like, I can't do this right unless I'm
Mm.
completely alone. What would you say to somebody who came to you and was like, I just don't have time?
Yeah. So everyone's talking about the nervous system now, right? So it's hard to know really who to listen to and, what's real or not. But our nervous system is here to protect us. It has always protected us, right? And we have to learn how to work with it. What's best for us, right? I have women who I coach, I have them prioritize their basic needs. Look back in your past, what is like the two most important things you need to feel good? And they're like, oh, I have to get good sleep. If I don't sleep, I'm a mess. I'm like, okay, well, that's what works for you. And, you need joy. You need to do what you love. Like prioritizing that, it's going to be different for everyone else. Yeah, the misconception really is like you don't have to be rigid with it. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. You don't have to cold plunge just because people say it helps them. It doesn't necessarily help
Right.
you. It's understanding yourself and your nervous system. No two people are the same. No one's sensory system and nervous system is the same. So I have women like really build the awareness. Like, what is sending you into fight or flight? What are these patterns in life? When you were depressed, what did that look like? What helped you? It's going to be different for everyone. If you're in fight or flight, maybe you need deep breathing and stretches, or maybe you need to go for a walk, or maybe if you're depressed, cold plunging and those things help you get back in your body and decrease anxiety. So it really depends on each person. And right, you said we have to slow down to be able to connect with ourselves. That's why we're
Yeah.
dysregulated. We are not connected with ourselves. We don't even know we're dysregulated. We don't even know where we're holding stress. We don't know what we need. And
Yeah.
like you said, moms, we're so busy. I mean, I do it too. I eat on the go all the time because we put our needs at the bottom of the list. But really, we have to flip it because if we are not taking care of ourselves, we can't help our children as good
Yeah.
as we want to because we're in fight or flight mode, right?
Yeah. For
That's what
sure.
it is. We have to prioritize our needs and connect with ourselves and slow down to see what works with our nervous system.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested in what you said for somebody, for example, the things are not all the same. I mean, there's all these tools that you can use, right? And they might work for a lot of people, but
Mhm.
it's not just these tools. So obviously, you do need air, water, food, things like that. But for some people, it's going to be they absolutely need great sleep or whatever. What are some things that you do specifically that you really like for nervous system regulation?
Yeah. So for me, it starts with like a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
I'm pregnant now, so I'm not sleeping that well. It sucks. And I'm just like, why am I so emotional? And why am
Yeah.
I so cranky? So prioritizing sleep for me. And then in the morning, not starting the day off looking at my phone or like rushing. Because if I start my day like that, like in a rush, it even increases cortisol even more. So I don't look at my phone in the morning. I go do deep breathing. I go outside, look at the trees. For me, it really starts with a good morning. I connect with my kids. When I was working and I was busy, like I would still find 2 minutes to sit with them and make eye contact with them instead of like,
Yeah.
go get your shoes on, get out the door. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Cause that's not a great way to start the day. And then I have moments where I call it checking in. So I'll just like, whew, sit down and be like, okay, how am I feeling? What do I need right now? Like, oh, my neck hurts. I think I'm hungry. Wait, when was the last time I drank? It's just like
Yeah.
these little moments of connecting and tuning in with your body. It's our bodies that we need to really address. It's our body that holds on to stress. It's our body that has the trauma. So those little moments of just checking in with yourself make such a big difference. And then you build this relationship with yourself and you figure out, hey, this is what I need to feel better.
Yeah. I
Mm,
like how you mentioned if you didn't sleep well and then you wake up, you look at your phone
mhm,
and you're rushing to get out the door. Maybe you're a mom that works full time or part time and you're getting up early in the morning or you're getting your kids off to school. And
mhm.
every single day, it seems like that from sun up to sundown, you were just go, go, go. That is when it gets so hard once we get into the school year and like in the
Yeah.
swing of things. I'm like, oh, the second that they all get away and I get to sit, I'm just like, "Oh my goodness."
I can
But then
breathe.
I yes, but I'm also like, I didn't even get to, like, cuddle with them this morning. I gave them a hug and everything, but it's like I enjoy those slow mornings,
Mhm.
and if I get a good night's sleep, I can wake up earlier, have a slower morning with them. I mean, sure, we still end up, rushing to school and make it there on time, but I mean, look, you do what you can.
Right, and, like, when I started doing this work, I was still working full time and dropping my kids off at daycare. It's the little habits. I would prep everything the night before so I wasn't a
Yeah.
hot mess in the morning. It was, like, just spending 2 minutes sitting with my kids before the rush, It
You
was just
know
that 2 minutes that made a difference.
Yeah. No, I really like how you pointed that out. So this just came to me. Whenever you started working with moms in this manner, that was when you were still working full time.
Yeah.
When I was going through my own gut healing journey and really was working on myself, I was working full time too.
Mhm.
And I want to point that out because
Yeah.
I have so many people who I talk to who are like, I'm just too busy. Like, now's not the time for me to invest in myself. And if you can invest in yourself at the busiest point in your life and
Mhm.
you can succeed at that, then I mean, like, you got it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I keep thinking about that whenever people say they don't have time. I'm
Mhm.
like, wow, like I could make so many excuses because Lord knows I barely have time sometimes. But I look back and I'm like, okay, how did I do that? I don't know
Yeah.
how I did it. I don't know. I was in school full time, working full time, had 2.5 kiddos, and I'm like, I don't know how I did it, but I
But you
did
did
it. And
it.
yeah, there may have been some fight or flight going on for sure, but I also was becoming healthier in a sense because I was healing so many issues that I had.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel like some people need to hear that because there's never gonna be a right time, you know?
Yeah, people always wait. It's like, you can't wait any longer. You deserve to feel better, and so do your kids. When I started doing this work too, I got even busier. Like, I started this business and I was feeling good. But it also starts with like holistic approach, right? Is addressing our mental health, emotional health, physical health, and spiritual health. You have to address your thoughts. If what you say all the time is, it's too much, I'm overwhelmed, I don't have time. Well, guess what? That's your reality. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not woo-woo. It's true. Your thoughts are so powerful. And if you tell yourself, I don't have time, well, guess what? Guess what? You don't. And
right.
we make time. If something is a priority, you will make the time. So I tell women, stop saying I don't have time. Tell yourself I'm not making the time. And
Exactly.
you have 5 minutes. Everyone does. And I always like picture women in like the early 1800s where they like sewed their own clothes. They washed their own clothes. They didn't have dishwashers. They had to skin their own meat. Like, ladies, we have time. Okay.
I know. It's like,
We have time.
what are we doing over here, you know?
We don't
Yeah,
even wash our own dishes. Okay. Or clean our own clothes. All
I
right. We
know.
have time.
I know. I know. Yep. I think that's a great episode right there.
Yeah.
I
No,
feel like
no, it's no excuses. If you're making excuses, then it's not important to you. But that's tough
yeah,
love. When I got better, someone was giving me real tough love, It's what we need sometimes to wake
yeah,
up.
I
Yeah.
agree completely.
Mhm.
Now, we both are Christian women, and I know that you have always had a relationship with Christ, but it wasn't until recently where your relationship with Christ became a lot stronger
Yeah.
because of your regulation work. And you realized that you were not slowing down enough to connect with God and hear his voice. I love that. I could say the exact same thing about my
Yeah.
story. So it's just awesome how God works in that way. But I'm wondering how your relationship with Christ in your own spiritual journey has impacted your ability to connect and work with other moms.
Yeah. So I was either in functional freeze or fight or flight mode. And when I look back on the hardest times in my life, I wasn't walking with God. Like my spiritual health was non existent. And I'm like, why did I feel so lost? And that's our anchor, right? We're spiritual beings. But my relationship with Christ is so important. And once I started to slow down and have these habits of praying in the morning and connecting and listening, it's like, oh my gosh, I was always trying to control everything and trying to do what I wanted to do. And God knows what I need. And God was like, you need to work with parents. I was like, no, not doing that. And then I did. And then he's like, you need to quit your job. I'm like, not gonna happen, and then I remember mentioning it to my husband because I just quit in March. I was working almost full time, and my husband's like, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think I'm crazy. I think this is what God wants me to do, and He's put this on my heart." But I have to listen to Him, right? And if you're not slowing down and connected with your spirit, that's what you can do in a regulated state. You can't hear God,
Look,
and
I
when
love
we're
it.
when we're in fight or flight, we're controlling. That's what anxiety is. It's trying to control the future. Your nervous system takes the past, finds a pattern, tries to control the future. That's what anxiety is. And we're constantly controlling. And when you have faith, you give up that control. And it's
Yeah.
just such an amazing, I mean, it's hard to do, right? To just surrender and let go. But you can't do that if you're dysregulated.
Right.
So, ooh,
A
I want
lot
to hear your
similar.
story.
I went to school first for college for visual art, so that's what my first bachelor's degree is in.
Mhm.
And I was a freelance artist, and then God was like, "Go to school, something in the medical field." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like,
Ew.
I don't do science or math. Like, that's a joke." And I kept feeling very called to do something in the medical field with health,
Mhm.
anything like that. But it was like I had this plan, but then he was like, "Hold on, no, do it my way."
Mhm.
But then he kept saying, "Go back and do something in the medical field or whatever." And so I did end up going to nursing school. I was like, "Okay, Lord," and then just different things. I mean, Lord, let's see. Have a baby. Okay, have a VBAC. Okay, but you can do that, but it's going to take you 2.5 days to birth her, essentially. And then the most recent thing with my son, he's 4 now, but I was planning a unmedicated home birth
Mhm.
and I had a midwife, had a backup plan and everything just in case that didn't work out, had it on my birth plan, all that good stuff, which was a great thing because we ended up having to be transferred to the hospital because he decelled one time. And
Mhm.
so he was born, I had to have an urgent C-section. That was totally fine.
Mhm.
But hours later, my uterine artery ruptured
Oh my
and I was almost gone. So,
gosh.
long story short, but through all of that, there was a lot of trauma throughout that whole experience, but I just remember waking up and he was right there with me and he was like, "Just be still. Just be still." Because I remember not being able to move because they
Wow.
had given me so much fluid and blood and
Mhm.
everything I had lost, and so I couldn't move, and I remember him just being like, "Just be still." And that was the first time that I was just like, "Okay, I got it."
He
Like,
says, do the hard things, right? That
I'm
we don't
like
think we can do on our own.
I'm like, "But I wanted to do this," and he's like, "No, you're gonna do it this way." So, but since then, I'm like, "Okay, I'll listen," but man, he's a funny guy.
I know, right? I mean, man, I told my husband this because he's been wanting to coach soccer for years. And he's like, I can't coach. It's not going to make money. And I'm like, you're miserable because you're not doing this.
Yeah.
He finally got his dream coaching job. And I'm like, God gave you this desire for a reason.
Yes.
And you need to follow it, trust and follow it, and that's, like, what we've like, "Oh my I'm starting a business and I'm a stay-at-home mom now, like, what's wrong with me?" But, like, this is a desire he has put in my heart, and I need to do it, and there's a reason why he has us doing this, even if it's just to help a handful of moms and change their lives. Like, it's
Yeah.
amazing what happens when we start following God and listening to him. I think
Yeah.
that's when the magic happens.
Yeah. That's so true. It's just really interesting too because I was talking to somebody about this the other day, like just through starting the podcast and my business, I've met so many awesome people.
Wow.
I've met so many awesome people and gotten to talk to them about Jesus and talk to them about gut health. And I'm like, that's why I did this, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's just all connected. It's all so fun and connected and it's exciting. But We just have to regulate our nervous system in the meantime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like a full-time job, but, like, I think, yeah, connecting with Christ, right? If that's, like, your number one basic need,
Mhm.
spiritual connection, then we have to do that, you know?
Yeah. I would love to know, what advice do you have for moms who are feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, struggling to just meet their own needs?
Oh, yeah, I love just messaging women, like, I, like, coach for free just 'cause it gives me joy, but, like, in my messages, these women are struggling, and I think it's different for every woman, but you have to slow down because your nervous system doesn't even know what safety is. You have to teach it. When we're in that I call it the stress
Mhm.
cycle, I talk about that all the time. When you're in that state of stress, you have to tell your nervous system, "Hey, it's okay. You're safe." Right? Like, slow down. Stop filling every minute with something. We do that. Like, I'm bored. I'm waiting for something for 2 minutes. I'm going to scroll. I'm going to answer an email. Like, don't do that. Don't fill every minute with something. Just be bored and sit there. But you know why we don't do that? Because it is so uncomfortable. Like, our body, we're in fight or flight, is like, do something, get up, the
Yeah.
dishes, laundry, like it's hard. And we
Yeah.
have to be like, no, this is safe. I can be bored. I can feel my feelings. I can listen to my thoughts without being attached to them. And it's just slowing down. Don't fill every minute with something and start teaching your nervous system what safety actually is. And I think we're just too distracted and we're always doing instead of just being. That's
Yes.
my biggest advice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that, and I need to work on that.
Yeah, we all do.
I do make sure that I don't schedule too much during the day. I try
Yes.
to have my boundaries as far as,
Mhm.
like, okay, I don't wanna be slammed all day because I
Yep.
know that I'm gonna be exhausted and not have room for
Yes.
anybody. But in those spaces,
Mhm.
even if I'm doing something, like, for myself, I'm doing something,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Like,
Yep.
I'm like, "Okay, well, at that point, that's whenever I'm gonna go do the dishes or the laundry because cleaning makes me happy and relieves stress." And I think, like,
Mhm.
there's a fine line there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
that's where it gets hard for me because I'm very type A,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, but there's so many things that need to be done.
Mhm.
That is a struggle. That is something that I'm actively working on though. But
Yeah, and you could schedule in rest, like, 5 minutes before I do the dishes, I'm just gonna go outside and do, like, some yoga poses
yeah, and
and
you
pray,
mhm, that's what I've had to start doing actually.
Yeah, doing the dishes and making sure the laundry pile doesn't accumulate is important, but, like, it's the inner work and it's the rest and the things like that that are actually more productive sometimes because right, say, like, you wake up early and you have to pack because you guys have a trip and, like, the kids, and then you're just like, "Oh my god, I can't even" like, in that moment, the most productive thing you could do is maybe just go for a walk for a few minutes, like,
Yeah.
right? We're more productive after our best rest. We are better parents after our best rest, right? So you
Yeah.
have to kinda understand, like, this is gonna make me feel better, and it's that discipline piece, like, I have to do this. It's a part of it?
Yeah.
Mm,
You said that we don't know what safety is. We have to create that safety. And
yes.
so I know, like, as babies, we are taught safety is with mom. Obviously, everybody's childhood upbringing is completely different. But for
Mhm,
most people, I would say that theirs is safety with mama, with their parent, that kind of thing. I'm wondering, can you speak more to that as far as creating our own safety?
mhm. Yeah, and I think that's creating these spaces in our environment that kind of feel safe, the moments of slowing down, and you're not gonna feel safe at first. When you start doing this work, it's so uncomfortable because 'cause
Right.
not used to slowing down and feeling our feelings. It does not feel safe because it's not the norm. Anything that is out of the norm, the nervous system is like, "This is unfamiliar," and it flags it. "This is not safe." Because if you're in fight or flight all the time and you're always going and doing, that's your norm. So anytime you start making shifts, your nervous system is really not gonna like it. So that's why we start with habits. You're not gonna go meditate on a hill for an hour and like go do a yoga class out of nowhere. We tend to be very 0 or 100. I know I used to be that, but like these little
Yeah.
pockets of just sitting and connecting with yourself, even though it's uncomfortable, like that really builds safety. Like the things that we can do when we're regulated. You connect with someone, you're in your body, you're deep breathing, you're out in nature and you feel connected. Like those things we tend to do when we're regulated, we can do those when we're dysregulated to tell our body we're safe. We can tell our nervous system we're safe by doing certain things. We can tell it to
Yeah.
go back to safety mode because it's like a tiger's behind you all the time. And then the tiger disappears. Like your body's not going to be like, oh, cool, we can chill now. Like it still thinks there's a tiger behind you. So you have to tell your body that the tiger's gone and you're okay. And there's certain things we can do to tell our body we're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
There's
Connection is one of those, deep breathing, slowing down your heart rate, doing something you love. It gets you in the present moment. Yeah.
Yeah. The more we talk, I'm like, I really need to do these more.
I need to do all the things.
It's like, oh wow, I didn't realize how dysregulated. But yeah, gosh.
One book I would recommend to you, it's called Burnout: How to Complete the Stress Cycle. It's by Emily Nagoski. That's a really good one. I wanted
Mm.
to ask you one question about gut health.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I know so many women in their 20s who are struggling with like IBS, and it's all like I think stem from anxiety. Do you see that a lot?
Yes.
Mhm.
So it seems like more and more people these days, younger and younger, are
Mhm.
having symptoms and given diagnoses of IBS.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot of different things that can contribute to it. I mean, I think that anxiety, like you were saying, for one, I feel
Mhm.
like just in the school system these days, like so much more is expected of kids.
Mhm.
I think that that's a huge part of it. I think that just being exposed to so much social media and having access to technology at a younger age than what we did can
Mhm.
contribute to that, just the anxiety from that.
Yeah.
I mean, even the food, what they're eating, like what's being put in the food more so now than was before. I mean, things have been processed for a while, but just all of the genetically modified things, the hormones, the antibiotics. I just don't feel like people are children or high schoolers, teenagers are not educated on nutrition enough. I mean, I don't
No.
think we ever took a class on it.
No.
And, even on how to take care of your body the right way. And so I think so much of information of what's good, what's bad is coming from so many different resources because anybody has access to so many different things from
Yeah.
technology. But then I also think so many different medications cause so many of those symptoms too, because
Right.
more and more teenagers are being put on oral contraceptive pills these days. Like if
Mhm.
they go and complain about their cycle being too heavy, irregular in any way,
Yeah.
that is the go to.
Mhm.
And that has been the go to for a long time. And I don't think that that's right, but I don't
Mhm.
think that providers are taught any differently. I mean, I've been educated in the Western medicine system. That's one of the go-tos, unfortunately. I don't agree with it. That was something that was done to me as well. And there's so many different things that could be looked into,
Mhm.
could be causing that. But the side effects of certain medications, things like that, can definitely cause gut issues as well. And so I think it's just such a combination of
Mhm.
all of these things because it's not ever your gut issues are typically never caused by just one thing,
Yeah.
right? There's so many different roots to it,
Mm.
especially if it's been chronic and going on for a couple months.
Yeah.
So I think that there's so many things, but also not slowing down. I think there's so many contributing factors,
Mhm.
honestly. So many things.
Um,
Well, Alex, this has been such a fun podcast episode. Really excited that you got to come and hang out here. Is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with today?
just tell moms that remember taking care of yourself is the most important thing you can do, and it only takes 5 minutes a day.
Yeah, I love it. It sounds so easy. It's that simple, guys. It's that simple. Okay, awesome. Well,
Thank
you
you,
have a good
Allison.
rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of my journey on What the Gut podcast. For a deeper dive into today's topics, head over to allisonandwellness.com/whatthegut or find the detailed show notes linked below. Hey, and don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button, and if you love this one, please leave me a review. Let's keep the conversation going over on Instagram. Connect with me and stay updated and engaged with my awesome community. Plus, share these valuable insights with your tribe. They deserve to feel as amazing as you do. You can find me at Allison_and_wellness on Instagram. Your support means the world to me. I'm looking forward to our next awesome chat. But until then, stay curious, don't drink too much coffee, keep the vibrant energy flowing, and take care of your gut. Catch you real soon. Oh, and hey, if you're ready to dive deeper into personalized wellness, check out my one-on-one health coaching program at allisonandwellness.com. Let's make your journey to holistic health truly transformative.